welcome to Feelings and Other F Words. I'm Dr. Daryl Appleton, and this week's F word was inspired by an email I almost sent but didn't because it gave me the ick. Have you ever given yourself the ick before? Because I have, and it's not fun. This week's F word is about fluency and where we are apologizing inside of our own sentences. Now, I know, listen, I get it. We have talked about this. People talk about this. Instead of saying, sorry, I'm late, it's thank you for waiting. We have known this now for a while. I am not presenting anything new in that domain. What I am presenting is the science behind why and some alternatives on what to do about it because it keeps happening. Clearly, because I almost sent an email yesterday that gave me the ick. Sweet God. So I do want to read you some of the parts. This is a very vulnerable thing for me. I don't want to do this, but I feel like I need to. I want to read you parts of this email just so you can see where I almost threw up on myself. I will give you some context after, but keep the judgments down. We're all friends here. First, I started it with hi with an exclamation point because that's just what we do. Just wanted to circle back on this. Immediate ick. Sorry to bother you again, but I think it might be worth revisiting. Let me know your thoughts when you have a sec. Not a second, a sec. No rush at all. 8 pieces of softening language in one paragraph. And the thing is, I was consciously doing it. This wasn't like a fever dream. This wasn't something I was writing in a rush. I was strategically trying to position myself as somebody that's clearly nonchalant. Don't worry about it. Whenever you have a sec, bruh. I was trying to create warmth in an email. The context behind it is I'm doing a few things professionally in a direction I've never done before, and I need a few gatekeepers to see how wonderful I am so I can continue on in this venture. We'll talk about it more later. But they were important emails for people to get to know me before they got to know me. But looking at it again, I was immediately disgusted. Because the other part of this is my brain knows, and I teach this and I talk about it a lot, the voice truly is an instrument. The tone, the timbre, the cadence of our voices, the words that we choose or don't choose, it is a huge piece of perception versus reality. It's a huge piece of building that public persona or expressing something about yourself. I mean, hello. The therapist in me is like, yes, of course. What we say matters. So how we talk, how we write, how we edit ourselves is something that is incredibly important. Now, let me just say this, and I'm going to say it loud and clear, especially for the people in the back here. This is not a speak with confidence episode. This is the why are you apologizing inside of your own declarative sentences episode. So I want us to understand, like always, why we are the way we are and what the F to do about it. So let's dive into some of the science that I found, which was really interesting and surprising to me because it starts back in 1975. Walk with me. Let's go back. In the 70s, there are no emails, there are no text messages, but this is still happening. Robin Lankoff talked a lot about identifying linguistic patterns in women's speech, or things that were more common in women's speech than men's. And she found that there were 4 different patterns that showed up way more in females than it did in their male counterparts. First one is hedges. Words or phrases like sort of, kind of wishy-washy, neither here nor there. Well, it was sort of awkward. It was kind of uncomfortable. Tag questions. Don't you think? You know what I'm saying, right? You understand. You get it. Tag questions, which now that I'm thinking about it out loud, it immediately struck something in me. I have a handful of female executives I work with that absolutely do this, but I can't think of one man that does tag questions. Maybe one once, but he genuinely was like, you understand this, right? Or do I need to go into it deeper? Sidebar. Uptalk, which is the next one. Rising intonation on declarative statements. This sounds good. We should move forward. Again, I'm maybe over exaggerating that, but when something should have a period at the end of it, but your voice tone is making it seem like a question. And then finally, intensifiers, which I am absolutely guilty of. Words like so, really, very. Oh my God, it was so, so nice to meet you. I'm so very proud of what I've accomplished. I'm incredibly blessed to have this opportunity with so many wonderful people who are really dedicated and so very thoughtful in their work. I could have been reading off of a LinkedIn post, right? Bet you any money it was probably a woman's LinkedIn post in my head that I was just reading off of. And maybe that's an interesting study for all of us with all of our free time. Go on LinkedIn and just print out a bunch or blind read it. And I bet you can tell if it's a man or a woman. There you go. Psychology in action. So in the 70s, we're talking about this. Fast forward to the 90s and 2000s, and there's further research that shows that these patterns are contextual and strategic, right? Women are using these as strategies, like I was, or I thought that I was doing. But what they actually found was it wasn't because women wanted to be perceived as weak. It's because we wanted to be perceived as warm and accommodating, but it was costing us professionalism or perceived professionalism. Directness will always be read as competence, whether that is true or not. For instance, if we are, God forbid, in a burning building together and you're like, I don't know, I think the stairs are over there. And somebody else is like, to your left, down the hall, there's a door. I'm going to follow that person. And they could be totally wrong. So we have seen that directness is very much perceived as confidence. When I'm working with my surgeons, especially my trauma surgeons, there are a lot of declarative statements. I am not asking you to get the crash cart. I'm not trying to work with you on getting the crash cart. I am telling you to get me the crash cart. So a lot of times you'll see people give an order and other people follow because of how they are saying it. It invokes an almost involuntary response to follow. And I don't know about the research on that, but I'm going to have to look it up because I do wonder if there's something coded in. I will say, though, the research that I saw on vocal pitch is very real and fascinating. And there are studies that show that vocal pitch and perceived authority go together. So let's take a step back. Evolutionary psychology, maybe even further, animal kingdom stuff. Think about all the squeaky animals, right? Mice, rabbits, rats. I can't think of any other squeaky animals right now, but they're out there. Think about the squeaky animals. Are they predator or are they prey? Exactly, right. I know what you're saying. I can hear you. They are prey. Predators, on the other hand, are louder. They roar, they bark, they yell with bass. There's something about vocal pitch and perceived authority, even in the animal kingdom. Not a shocker, but lower pitch is read as more authoritative. Makes sense. When I'm picking my kids up from school, I'm like, hi, babies, how are you? How was school? And then like probably 20 minutes later when they're screaming at each other, I'm like, knock it off, right? Like my tone gets lower. I'm like, you better cut it out right now or I will pull this car over, right? Like it's not said in a high voice. But regardless of speaker, it is linked to authority. Women's voices, interestingly enough, have dropped half an octave over the last 50 years. And certain research attributes it to professional pressure, and others is just what authority sounds like now. But it is very interesting. If I came into your boardroom or if I was doing executive coaching with you and I was like, oh my God, hi, how are you? Oh, tell me everything about what's going on in your world and we're going to get you to the C-suite. You want to be CEO? Oh, gosh, that's amazing. I think you'd be an amazing CEO too. Right. And I'm over dramatizing that. But you would be like, who is this woman and how do we get security to escort her out? So it is very true. We do judge people on how they look, how they sound, and how they behave. And you can feel however way you want about that. This is the brain doing what it does. It is trying to make as many decisions as possible of can I trust you or not in the first nanoseconds of meeting you. So let's use it to our advantage. That's what I would say. There's also some cool research that I won't necessarily get into about politics and vocal pitch. I'm sure you know where they lead, but it's very fascinating. The other thing that I wanted to bring up on the last kind of note here I have on our science section is the word just, especially in women's emails. I was personally attacked by this. I use the word just all the fucking time. I start out emails probably like 90% of the time with like, just wanted to follow up, just checking in, just wanted to see. That's a very real thing for me. And it's interesting because we as women use it 2 to 3 times more than men in professional writing. And the cost is perceived authority. I'm trying to do it because I think it is warm, right? I'm not trying to pressure you in my mind, my rational mind. But this study also karate chopped that and said that it is not perceived as warm. People on the other end of that email aren't like, oh, Daryl is so warm. They're probably seeing it as like, Daryl has no actual authority in her own inbox. So again, if you're doing it, I'm doing it too, but we're going to get better at it. The question I truly have is, if half of our sentences are apologizing for the other half, what would happen if we stopped? Like, what would change? Would we get better responses from people? Would we be seen in a more authoritative light? Would we feel incredibly uncomfortable and set ourselves up for disaster? Like, would we just internally combust? I don't know. But I have seen this pattern in the wild, as you have. The just before every email request, the sorry before a hard question in a meeting, the uptalk of your own opinion, the over-explanation of a decision you were entitled to make, the way you ask somebody else at the table to confirm something you actually know better than they do. And sometimes this is used in a snarky way of like, let me just get this straight, or can you just clarify X, Y, and Z, knowing that I know what I'm talking about? It doesn't come off, though, as necessarily snarky. It's a risky play because you can come off looking like you don't actually know. This is also the Slack message or the text message or the email that you rewrote 6 different times and you ultimately ended up softening it. That's what it looks like in the wild. If you are doing any of those things, stop. I want you to stop. I want you to come here and I want you to listen to this next section on what we are going to do about it. The first thing is we need to reframe it. The wellness internet, which I can't stand saying, but the wellness internet says speak with confidence, right? That's the problem framed wrong. This isn't a confidence issue. This is an issue that women have been taught that using direct speech reads as aggressive. And we have absorbed that lesson truly down to the prepositions. We have. The work here isn't, again, confidence. It's awareness that it's happening and being able to change it. I am very confident in a lot of things that I feel like I should be confident in, right? I think that there is time and place that I need to be more aware of where I am shrinking myself to make maybe somebody else feel more comfortable, even if that is because I'm trying to create, quote, warmth. I don't need to create warmth with you. We're trying to do business together. Maybe in my friendships, I can do that, but there's a time and a place. So what do we do about it? The first thing I want us to do after noticing that it happens and reframing that you don't have a confidence issue, this is a preposition issue, we need to change our words, is I want us to both, all of us, do some surgery on our sentences. Sentence surgery. You don't need to even have a copay. For 1 email a day, I want you to strip out a just, a maybe, an I think, a sort of, a sorry to bother you, when you have a sec, no rush, or a hopefully. which if I were to send that email yesterday, I would have no words. There would be nothing left to it. I'd just be like, call me. That's what the email probably would have read. And guess what? It probably would have landed much better. So once you do your sentence surgery, I want you to read the email back. And I want you to notice what your nervous system does. The discomfort you are probably going to feel, that is your muscle stretching. That is the workout we are trying to give that underdeveloped muscle. So if it feels uncomfortable, and it's not rude, we don't want to be rude, that means it's working. The second thing we want to do is the period rule. I want you once a week to end your statements with a period, not a question mark. I want you to practice saying, this is the right move, not, is this the right move? This might be the right move. I feel like I have to imagine this is the right move. I think this is the right move. This is the right move, or this is the move we are going to make. Notice how the room responds. It's declarative. It's instructive. I want you to practice it with people that maybe are loving critics, but I want you to practice saying, this is what we're doing, period. Again, it's not in a mean way. Don't say it like in the middle of a fight because it's going to escalate it. I mean, you can, but know that it's going to escalate it. But I want you to do it when somebody is genuinely asking for your guidance or opinion and say, here's what we're going to do first. The other thing I want you to do is the mirror read. You're going to hate this, but too bad. Record yourself reading a paragraph from a recent email, like my cringy one. Listen back to it. Many of us, men and women, are stunned by how much we are apologizing. You can't fix what you don't hear. So a lot of times recognizing it, sometimes like we're just intuitive being like, just checking in, reading it back and hearing it, quite literally hearing it, is going to blow your mind. And it allows the brain to really grasp onto something that it says, okay, now I need to change this because it's so gross, we cannot go on. And then the final thing is voice inheritance. This is identity work. This is the shadow work. This is the deep dive stuff. But I want you to ask yourself, whose voice did you grow up around? Right? Who got listened to in your house and who didn't? And what was that like and why? The voice you have now is truly a part of the voice you learned was safe to use. And naming that is the start of choosing the voice that actually serves you. So go back in, be a bit reflective. See these collection of voices that were around you or how you were told or taught to speak up in uncomfortable situations or not. Or maybe it's a boss at work that does it really well, or maybe it's a boss at work that doesn't do it so well, and why. But getting down into that understanding of voice inheritance and how it does all shape and become a mosaic of the voice we use today is also incredibly, incredibly valuable information. So I will say this, you don't need to talk less. Not by a mile, not at all. You don't need to edit stuff down to the point where you're not saying anything. What you do need to do, and what I need to do, is we all need to stop apologizing inside of our sentences. We need to let our words have the weight and the power in a full range. Good luck. I am aggressively cheering you on from here. And I'm going to say goodbye with a period at the end. And I will see you next week on Feelings and Other F Words.